Today we are going to do the revision of the carpal bones. As you know, there are 8 carpal bones which are arranged in 2 rows, the proximal row and the distal row. The proximal is towards the body and distal is away from the body. So the proximal row contains 4 bones from lateral to medial side, that is the scaphoid, lunate, triquetral and pisiform. And the distal row again from the lateral to the medial side, the trapezium, the trapezoid, the capitate and the hamate. The capitate is the largest of the carpal bones. Now we will do the identification of each bone. So the first bone which we are going to do is the scaphoid. The scaphoid is boat shaped. As you can see here very clearly, it is boat shaped and has a tubercle on its lateral side. Has a tubercle on the late. This hole is the tubercle of the scaphoid. Then second bone is lunate. You will identify the lunate with its shape. It is the only bone which is having a half moon shape or the crescentric shape. See, it is semilunar, crescentric or half moon shape. Then coming to third bone, that is the triquetral. The triquetral is pyramidal in shape and has an isolated oval facet on the palmar surface. So this is the palmar surface. Here you can see the oval facet on the palmar surface. The next is the pisiform. The pisiform is a P-shaped and has only one oval facet on the proximal part of the dorsal surface. Proximal part, or you can see this oval facet, and it is also a sesamoid bone which is present in the tendon of flexor carpi ulnaris. Okay, these were the 4 bones of the proximal row: the scaphoid, lunate, triquetral and pisiform. You have to just do only the identification part. Now coming to the bones of the distal row, as I have already told you, trapezium, trapezoid, capitate and hamate. So first is the trapezium. It is quadrangular in shape. As you can see, it is a quadrangular in shape and has a crest and a groove on the anteriors. This is the crest and deeper to it, this is the groove lying on the anterior surface. Then next is the trapezoid. It resembles a shoe of a baby. The shape of the trapezoid resembles the shoe of a baby. Then third, capitate. I have already told you it is the largest carpal bone and it has a rounded head. See, this is the rounded head. Then eighth bone is the hamate, that is wedge shaped along with hook near its base. You can see this hook at the base, or it is also known as hook of the hamate. So for the side determination of the carpal bones, always remember the proximal row is convex proximally and concave distally. As you can see, it is convex proximally and concave distally. For the distal row, it is convex proximally again and flat distally, not concave. Now each carpal bone is having 6 surfaces. The palmar surface, that is lying on the other side, the palmar surface, the dorsal surface. These all are the dorsal surfaces of each bone. The dorsal surface, the lateral surface, the medial surface and the proximal and the distal surface. The palmar and dorsal surfaces of all the bones are non-articular except for the triquetral and pisiform. Now coming to the metacarpal bones. As you know, the metacarpal bones are 5 miniature long bones which are numbered from lateral to medial side. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Each bone has a head placed distally. The rounded head is placed distally, a shaft and a base at the proximal end. The head is rounded. The shaft is concave on the palmar surface. See, the shaft is the concave on the palmar surface and convex on the dorsal surface. The base is irregularly expanded. The base is irregularly expanded. By seeing the concavity and convexity of the metacarpal bones, you can identify the palmar and the dorsal surface of the respected hand. Now coming to the first metacarpal bone, As you can see, it is shortest of the all metacarpal bones. Now the base of this first metacarpal bone is occupied by a concavo-convex articular surface which makes a joint with the trapezium and forms the first carpometacarpal joint, which is a saddle variety of synovial joint, which is formed between the trapezium and the first metacarpal bone. Distal to the metacarpals, you can see the phalanges. The phalanges are 14 in each hand, 3 for each finger and 2 for the thumb. You can see there are 2 phalanges in thumb and 3 in each finger. Now each phalanx has a base, a shaft and a head. Each phalanx has a base, shaft and a head. Now coming to the types of joints in hand. First coming to the intercarpal joints. The carpal bones are attached to each other by intercarpal joints which are of plain synovial type. Then coming to the carpometacarpal, as I have already told you, the first carpometacarpal is saddle in variety and the rest of the carpometacarpal are ellipsoid in variety. Then the next type of joint is metacarpophalangeal. The metacarpophalangeal are synovial joints of condylar variety. The synovial joints of condylar variety. Then next are the interphalangeal. In between the phalanges, this is the interphalangeal joint which is of hinge variety of synovial joints. So these were about the joints of the hand. As you can see, these two structures which are lying above the forceps are ulnar nerve and ulnar artery. These are entering the hand, the palmar aspect of the hand, by passing superficial to the flexor retinaculum. By passing superficial to the flexor retinaculum, it ends by dividing into a superficial palmar branch. You can see very well the superficial palmar branch and a deep palmar branch. The one which is going to the deeper level is the deep palmar branch. The superficial palmar branch, it is the main continuation of the ulnar artery. These superficial and deep branches take part in the formation of superficial and deep palmar arch. You can very well appreciate the superficial palmar arch over here. Now coming to the details of the superficial palmar arch, here you can see very well the superficial palmar arch. It represents an important anastomosis between the ulnar artery and the radial artery. The convexity of the arch is directed towards the fingers, as you can see very well, and its most distal point is situated at the level of distal border of extended thumb. Formation. Now coming to the formation of the superficial palmar arch, it is formed by the direct continuation of the ulnar artery. I have already told you, beyond the flexor retinaculum, that is by the superficial palmar branch, and on the lateral side the arch is completed by the superficial palmar branch of the radial artery. Here you can see the branches of the superficial palmar arch. It gives off 4 digital branches. See, 4 digital branches, 1, 2, 3 and 4. 4 digital branches which supply the medial 3.5 digits. The deep branch of the ulnar, this was about the superficial branch. Now coming to the deep branch of the ulnar artery, which is going deeper, arises in front of the flexor retinaculum, immediately beyond the pisiform bone. Soon it passes deep to join the deep palmar arch, and it will complete the deep palmar arch below the tendons. Now coming to the innervation of the hand, the first nerve which we are going to study is the ulnar nerve. So ulnar nerve, it lies superficial to the flexor retinaculum, as I have already told you. It enters the hand and divides into a superficial branch and a deep branch. This one is the superficial branch, and the one which is entering in the muscles, that is the deep branch. Superficial branch is cutaneous, and the deep branch passes through the muscles of hypothenar eminence. As you can see, the deep branch is entering into the muscles. As I have already told you, the superficial branch is cutaneous. then it will supply the palmaris brevis, and it will divide into 2 digital branches for the medial 1.5 fingers. See, it is supplying the medial 1.5 fingers, and the deep branch, I have already told you, it accompanies the deep branch of the ulnar artery. So it is going deeper to the hypothenar muscles, and it will supply the muscles. Now we will study about the median nerve. The median nerve enters the palm by passing beneath the flexor retinaculum. So this one is the median nerve, you can very well see. As it enters the palm, it gives off a lateral division and a medial division. The lateral division, you can see the lateral division, it gives off a muscular branch to the thenar muscles and 3 digital branches for the lateral 1.5 digits including the thumb. Then coming to the medial division, see, this one is the medial division. It divides into 2 common digital branches for the second and the third interdigital cleft. You can see the second and the third interdigital cleft. So the median nerve supplies the skin over the 3.5 digits, the lateral 3.5 digits. Now coming to the spaces of the hand, as you know, the arrangement of the fascia and the facial septa in the hand, they form many spaces, the palmar spaces, the dorsal spaces, and the forearm space of Parona. First, coming to the palmar spaces, first is the pulp space of fingers. This is the location of the pulp space of fingers. Then coming to the mid palmar space in the middle of the palm, obviously the mid palmar space. Then thenar space, the thenar space, below the thenar eminence will be the thenar space. Then the forearm space of Parona. First we are going to discuss about the forearm space of Parona. It is a rectangular space situated deep to the lower part of the forearm, just above the wrist. This is the location of the forearm space. It lies just in front of the pronator quadratus. You can see this muscle, the pronator quadratus, just above this. This is the forearm space of the Parona. Superiorly, this space extends up to the oblique origin of flexor digitorum superficialis, as you can see, and inferiorly it extends till the flexor retinaculum. So this is the extent of the forearm space, and it communicates with the mid palmar space. You can see it is communicating with the mid palmar space. So these were the locations of all the spaces of hand.